Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Give us a call tonight at 412-575-2600. The phone lines are open. Chris Mueller is going to join me from the 93.7 The Fan Cam right now. You see him over there. And Chris, I'm starting to have Bucko fever. What a nice game here for the Pirates tonight. And I think the big reason for me is I like the fact that we get to see Jones and Skeens back-to-back, a 1-2 punch. It gets me a little bit excited about the future of this team. You got some timely hits here tonight, but I was really impressed with Jones again here tonight. Not only does he have a nasty fastball, but he also has a nasty slider, too, that fooled a lot of those Cubs.
Well, Richie, I've seen too many disappointing games that they should have won this year to have Bucko fever, but I will repeat your optimism or echo your optimism on certain fronts. Couple of things. I'll actually start offensively. They're starting to slowly but surely. 5 is no explosion, but they're starting to hit the ball over the fence. Nick Gonzalez has given them a nice little jolt. You don't want to see Cruz go cool for too long, but Connor Joe, Gonzalez, they've got a little bit going there. And then to your point, you go Jones, Skeens, and then skip a day, and then Keller, and still Bailey Falter hasn't been too bad. He's actually been pretty good as the other guy in this 4-game series. Suddenly, you feel like you can pitch with anybody. And about Jones specifically, what I would say that was really impressive tonight, he did not have his A-plus stuff. And also, it's just going to get tougher for him because teams are going to see him more often. And the Cubs are a good team, but he was still keeping hitters off balance. He didn't walk anybody, which is a recurring theme with him. And I don't know about you, but was most impressive, you look at a 22-year-old and you say, well, how's his mental makeup? Every time something bad happened, he pretty much followed it up with a strikeout and got out of innings and minimized damage. That's the sign to me of a pretty mature pitcher and a guy who's got full command of his stuff and full belief that he can pitch his way in and out of any situation. I really like what I see with Jared Jones. I think it's just a continuation, another good start. Maybe not an electrifying one, Richie, but this is like the stuff that, even though it's six innings, 3 runs, kind of whatever, quality start, bare minimum, this is the stuff that really good pitchers are made of. When they don't have their best against a good team, still delivering enough to get a team a win.
Yeah, 2.89 ERA. And look, I was ripping the Pirates earlier today. The fact that Andrew McCutchen was on the bench, I mean, he was really starting to heat up and get out of his slump. 8 hits in the last 20 at-bats, the last 5 games. But I guess I was wrong. It was the right decision because they put Brian Reynolds in as the pinch hitter, and I'm not pinch hitter, the DH tonight, and he came through with that 5th run, that double, the 4th run, but came through in a big-time moment. But I don't like the lineup juggling is kind of what I'm getting to here, and he's been doing it all year. I mean, that's just the MO of this team right now, just trying to find the right lineup, but maybe pick something that works.
Well, here's the problem. If you pick something, it usually means you have a lot of good players who are validating it. The Pirates, I think, coming into today's game, so including their last game played, had scored 2 or fewer runs in 17 of their last 27. I'd be juggling my lineup, too, if the guys that I were putting out there on a daily basis were doing that little offensively. I don't get as mad about Chris, that as everybody else does.
Doesn't that hurt them, though? I mean, you want to break out this slump. Let's just be consistent with you guys stink right now. Let's be consistently.
Counterpoint.
Okay.
Consistently stinky. Counterpoint. Yeah. What hurts worse, juggling lineups or just not having very good players regardless of what order you put them in?
Yeah, I mean, look, they have a bunch of average utility players. I mean, I know we all are critical of that, but I would like to see a consistent lineup, and I understand that they're trying to match up Edward Olivares against lefties, Connor Joe against lefties, and Rowdy Tellez against righties, and all this other stuff. But maybe sometime just go out and say, Connor Joe, you're our first baseman. That's your position right now. Just stick with it. Edward Olivares deserves some playing time, more playing time.
Yeah, Olivares has pop. I want to see him out there, especially against lefties, obviously, and he showed that again tonight. On Connor Joe, that's the one area where I will agree with you. He's their leading RBI guy this year. Not that that's a be-all, end-all stat, but he's been their most consistent offensive player. And, Richie, maybe you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this a ton. I don't want to see Rowdy Tellez anywhere near the starting lineup for the foreseeable future or ever again. I'll even be honest, that throwing error charged to Grandal that opened up the door for the 4th run to score, I'm really not so sure Tellez couldn't have had that. That's a tough play, but I've seen first basemen make that play, and he did not show what I thought was a lot of fortitude in keeping his glove in there in the path of the runner.
The other thing is I'm done with Jack Sawinski too. I know we had a caller here the other day saying that give him a chance, give him time, but you know, I don't want a guy in the lineup that's batting 172. I'd rather put Edward Olivares out there. I understand his bat plays, but his bat's streaky. Are you just going to wait it out?
That's the problem. You say the bat's streaky, and you also tell me that you want consistent lineups. If you believe that the Sawinski bat is streaky, then you would at some point believe he's going to go on the kind of tear that's going to get him to like 20, 25 homers this year. I think he's a very flawed player, and it goes back to my original argument about this lineup. There are a lot of guys with major flaws that the Pirates are trying to turn into everyday players. Jack Sawinski just is probably never going to get hit left-handed pitching, and he's not going to mash right-handed pitching enough to make it worthwhile. And yet he's somebody that they came into this season, Richie, counting on in the middle of their order. So what does that tell you?
Yeah. All right. Well, it tells you we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. 412-575-2600 is the number. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC tweet of the night. Another tweet here, Jared Jones tonight. You can see his stats, 6 innings pitched. I mean, this is a quality start, and not super impressive, but what impresses me about him is just the way that he throws the ball and the way that he comes back after he maybe struggles with a batter, like Chris was just saying a little bit ago. So 7 hits, 3 runs, 7 Ks, no walks. That's pretty impressive. Another solid start for Jared. Paul Skeens pitches tomorrow, which I am super excited about. I know it's an appointment, right? What did Pat McAfee say? It's a appointment watching or something.
It's appointment viewing. I think they were trying to pick a nickname. Is he the Big Country or is he a gas station?
Yeah.
My vote is for gas station. Although if I guess some of us eat Brussels sprouts too often, you can all be your own personal gas station. To go back to Jones here, one more thing. I mean, there's a big picture discussion to be had about Skeens and Jones being back-to-back like this that I want to get to in a second, Richie. But I think the no walks is actually the most impressive part of that. You know what it represents? Not just a young pitcher really in command of his stuff, but anybody that watched him come up through the minors will tell you, and he'll admit it himself, he had nowhere near this level of control in the minor leagues. So this is an example of something like the Pirates getting more than they bargained for in a good way with a prospect that comes up. I also think in his case it's just a true belief in his pitches and that his stuff can play, so he doesn't have to try to aim it as much. And the one thing with Jared Jones I would say to watch out for is this. If he ever starts to get that curveball over and trust it enough that he feels he can go to it whenever he wants to just throw a get-over strike, he is going to be very tough. He did that to Ian Happ, and then Happ ended up taking a pretty good pitch out of the ballpark. But if he becomes like a 3 or even a 4-pitch pitcher, I mean, he's going to be virtually unhittable. And then the big picture part, Richie, and I know this is what you want to get to, this is how you build a winner. You have that guy who pitched tonight, who got it done for you, who gave you enough, and your offense helped him a little. And then you're going with the big guy tomorrow. Like, there's every reason to believe that Paul Skeens should pitch well enough, even having seen the Cubs in his first start and seeing them again. Don't you feel like the Pirates should win that game tomorrow? I do.
I do too.
I feel like Paul Skeens should be even better, and they should have at least a series split. Oh, and then by the way, in the finale, you have Mitch Keller going. You should get 3 out of these 4 games, bare minimum.
And think about this. I mean, how much better would it have looked if we got the Ronzi Contreras that we thought we were going to get, and they traded him today, but that was a disappointment. He would have definitely been penciled into the starting rotation. That was the key part of that Jamison Tylen trade. So let's go out to the phone lines. We got Dave out in the north side. How you doing, Dave?
It's finally Bednar's trying to get his stuff together because I like to see him get down to that ERA, but maybe down to 4. What do you think about that?
I mean, his ERA is sitting around 8 right now, Bednar, but what I liked, he was 3 up, 3 down. This is 2 straight, right? Maybe he's starting to get that confidence back. If it was an injury, maybe it's starting to feel a little bit better. But, you know, closers are streaky, right? They're up and down. But if he can just get back to where he was last year and hit a good stride here, I think mentally, I think that's the biggest thing, you know, for a closer. They got to get over this and get back to what they were doing before.
With David Bednar, it's like real estate, Richie. Location, location, location. If he's putting 97 on the black like he did for his strikeout tonight, if he's on the edges of the zone at 97, especially on 2 strike counts, he's going to be very tough to hit. Teams are going to have to go hunting for his fastball early, and if he knows that, and he does, he'll start throwing off-speed stuff. But he really, because he doesn't touch 100, not that many closers do, he really just has to put that fastball in the spots he wants to, and then he's going to be back to his usual self. I think people have said, does the fastball, is it not playing as much this year? I think as much as anything, it's a byproduct of throwing it too much in the middle of the plate. Major league hitters, if they see 97 and it's middle, they're going to hit it very hard.
The bullpen definitely has to turn things around. They've been awful. Chapman, Holderman, Bednar. Eventually, I think you're going to see things come together for this group.
Holderman's been really good. I'm not going to rip him in limited action since he came back. I think tonight he actually did a pretty good job ultimately of putting out that fire, albeit with some nervousness. Chapman, I could go on and on and on about things that have frustrated me, but Chapman was not a good use of financial resources. I'd much rather see, I think I said this to you last night, no Rowdy Tellez, no Aroldis Chapman, and Rhys Hoskins on this roster than the alternative that we got. Just Chapman has not been as advertised. I thought he would be. I'm hoping as the weather gets hotter, his fastball plays even livelier, but right now he's not anywhere near the player that I thought they were getting.
Yeah, they were hoping to sign these guys and trade them. Let's go out to Bill and Eloquippa. How you doing, Bill?
Hi, Rich. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for calling.
I want to talk about the Pirates. While they're not winning, it's because they make too many errors in the outfield. Every game they play. Now, I want to say something because win or lose, I like them, okay? But I want to say this. I want to go back in the 70s, okay? And say back in the 70s when they were good, when they went to the playoffs or the World Series like the Steelers,
Yeah.
you knew it was guaranteed. I told my friends, guaranteed they were going to win. And I was right. With the Steelers winning all them Super Bowls and the Pirates, the World Series in 71 and 79, it was a guarantee. I know people keep saying, well, but you keep going back in the 70s. I understand that. But see, the thing with the Pirates today is they're like that every year. Like this year,
You know what? I think a lot of teams are like that. I hate to cut you off. I mean, fundamentals are lost these days. I mean, you saw what Suzuki did early that cost them a run, potentially what's a winning run.
I was going to say, the Cubs made the,
yeah.
the Cubs made the outfield error that cost them the game ultimately here. What
Yeah.
are we talking about? I don't think they're good in the outfield. There's probably a point in there about fundamentals. I would also argue that for all its disadvantages, like brush burns and more brush burns and being as forgiving as concrete, I'm willing to bet it was easier to play outfield on AstroTurf than it is in grass as far as the ball taking regular, consistent, predictable high hops and bouncing right out to you. That's just a guess, though.
And plus, they don't have an all-star outfield. I mean, Michael Taylor's a good defensive player. Brian Reynolds, I mean, I think he's an above-average player all around. These aren't the Andrew McCutchens and Sterling Martes playing out there in their heydays. Or Andy Van
They definitely
Slyke.
do.
None of these guys.
Well, they definitely don't have Marte, who's probably the best defensive outfielder I've seen them roster really in my entire life. I know Marte drove people crazy sometimes with these perceived mental lapses, but that was usually on the bases. That guy had a howitzer of an arm. He knew how to use it. He was good he was really good in left field, tracking fly balls. They don't have that guy now. And the weird thing with them is, like, I look at first base, Richie, they don't seem to care about defense at certain positions, and they should. They should be much more cognizant of, hey, just because first base isn't considered important defensively, that doesn't mean we just throw a guy out there. They're a team that needs to try to steal runs in every way possible, and that includes preventing them with elite defense, which you will recall the last time we all truly had Bucko fever from 13 through 15, they were an outstanding defensive team pretty much all those years.
All right, let's go out to the phone lines. We got Gary out in West Elizabeth. How you doing, Gary?
Hi, Rich. Yeah, my wife printed me out the schedule tonight. Man, the Steelers got a brutal schedule, huh?
Yeah, they do. Really. Released, it's brutal. We talked a little bit about this at length last night, but I look at weeks 15, 16, and 17. I think those potential make or break this team and maybe get them into the playoffs, cost them a playoff spot. But yeah, the last 8 games, 6 division games. I think we tweeted. I saw a tweet by Warren Sharp. It's never happened ever that they played all their division games from week 11 on. Period. And in the NFL.
I mean, I don't know if you're hearing this, Richie. I've been hearing things like they weren't happy about some of the stuff. No team is happy. These teams all know before we do what their schedule is. But as part of trying to move things around, the Steelers might have had this very backwards way of doing things with the division games all being backloaded. Like, that might have been a consequence of some of their unhappiness. It might be the hardest 8-game run in league history, at least on paper. 6 of those 8 games against teams projected to win 10 or more, Warren Sharp put out there. The other 2 against the Browns, who are projected to essentially be a 9-8 team. So you have 8 straight games against teams that are projected, to have winning records. They need to make their hay, and then Mike Tomlin is going to have to hope. I think this is one other thought I've had about this schedule. They want to be a bully, bash them up, beat them up team physically. They want to maul people with that offensive line and batter them into submission. If they actually do succeed in putting that kind of offense together, then I could see them winning some wars of attrition against maybe quote-unquote better quarterbacks and better teams down the stretch.
Kirk, out in Manor, you have 15 seconds. What's up?
Okay, real quick, you got a $22 million cap hit guy, $16 million salary. Played less than 65% of his team's games last year, and he's going to skip the OTA?
Well, I mean, look. He's in his last year of his contract. He wants an extension. He's probably just proven a point. I think he'll be there for mandatory minicamp and training camp.
OTAs are voluntary.
Yeah.
Oh, this drives me nuts. Sorry, Kirk. OTAs are voluntary. Voluntary. He doesn't have to be there. This idea that he's some bad guy for skipping them, that's like somebody telling me, hey, Chris, we're having a meeting here, but you don't have to show up if you don't want to, really. And then I say, okay, I'm not showing up. Hey, you're a bad guy. What are you doing?
You know,
Come on.
I do want to point out, though, Chris, I mean, over the years, Heyward would show up for maybe the first one or the 5th one, and he would skip a couple in between. He would show up for 1 or 2 or a handful of them. All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes.